Greetings, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to the final week in what I've coined Sensible September. Only I have some bad news. I don't think this week will be sensible. That's because we have a full moon in Aries that promises to tip the scales. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Sensei Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, dear friend. Namaste. I've coined the month Sensible September, but I have to tell you, until this week, okay? This week, things really start to shift in a big way. In perfect essence, we just spent the entire year improving our life, working on ourselves, stepping into our highest light. And this week, we begin the process of dealing with the new us and also trying to deal with other people. So in this week's show, we're going to talk about how a full moon on Tuesday will most likely tip the scales in your life. In other words, throw something way off, forcing you to recover. And later in our tea time, I'll talk about what that means for you and how the full moon affects all 12 signs. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and the zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, September 24th to Friday, September 28th, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast. The week starts off super sunny, but there's breakdowns and breakthroughs Tuesday through Friday. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and loving. Step 1 rules the day, and a moon in Pisces makes everything okay. On Tuesday, it's cloudy, overcast, and highly emotional. It's the full moon in Aries, and step 2 makes it even more intense. On Wednesday, it's sunny but learning. Step 3 rules the day, and a moon in Aries makes you feel strong and regain your composure. On Thursday, though, it's cloudy, overcast with a chance of storms. Step 4 promises some breakdowns, and you have to be careful with the moon in Taurus, not making it too big of a deal. And then on Friday, the sun comes back out. It's sunny and sharp. Step 5 rules the day, and you begin to get clarity over losing your balance. Well, looking at the planets this week, it's all about God, universe, tipping the scales. In our next segment, I'm going to talk about the collective consciousness and what you're facing. Taking a sneak peek at this upcoming week, this week, the soul collective consciousness is tipping the scales. And that might be a challenging thing. But before I dive into it, let's back up a little bit. 2018 has been all about improving yourself. We've been cutting away our old karma, launching a new ego, resetting our values, clearing our emotions, finding our heart again, and in Virgo, we launched the new reality. So you could say the first 9 months or 8.5 months of the year has been all about you. How you operate, what you're carrying, the signal that you put out into the universe to law of attract. Now that we move into Libra, we move into the concept of you and me, okay? 2, duality, balance. In fact, the tipping of the scales comes from the idea of falling off balance. That's what Libra consciousness is. Libra consciousness is actually our capacity to open up and accept and receive. It turns out that balancing doesn't happen by adding more weight. It happens by opening up and accepting from the other party, opening up and accepting the terms, opening up and accepting the deal. And in this first week, you have to open up and accept things about yourself. That's why the scales may be tipped. Because you've been working all year long to make your life totally amazing, only to find out, I don't know, on the full moon. Okay? Now, it's something you feel. It's not going to be something that you actually probably experience. So there will be some people this week that have a literal collapse of something or something breakdown. But for most people, it's an emotional enough is enough. It's an emotional temper tantrum. It's that we've been so busy working on so many other things that the way we relate to ourselves needs to change. In fact, you could look at it that way. We've changed everything we possibly could about ourselves except the way we relate to ourselves. And this makes sense because if you have promoted yourself to a new level, then you must approach yourself from that new level. You must approach yourself with the respect of that new level. You must approach yourself with the language appropriate for that new level. And what I am sort of predicting this week is we go racing into delicate Libra, and you're going to probably discover that you still have the same old me-rriage with yourself, and despite all of the changes and all the effort that you've made, you're still treating yourself the old way. Now, it's possible that you externalize that and say that the world is still treating you the same way, because Libra does relate to relationships. But in these first 11 steps of Libra, it's all about the relationship to yourself. So I just want to tell you, yes, you might have a fight with your significant honey. You might have a discord with a business partner. You might have an argument with a friend. But it's one of those old sayings, you might be pointing the finger, but three are pointing back at you. If you're unhappy or disgruntled with a relationship, it's because it's a reflection of the way you treat yourself. That's actually how law of attraction happens. If I ignore my heart, I find someone else who also ignores their heart. Now, maybe I fill my own heart, or maybe I'm a nurturer, but I attract the way I treat myself. So this is really the magical week to switch your law of attraction power, and you switch it not by things you do, but by how you be to yourself. So looking at the week ahead, we start the week very loving. It's almost like the universe kind of seduces us into the pool where the shark is. Okay, like things are very loving on day one. The moon is in Pisces. We're starting to feel good about having launched our new reality. And the good thing is with the sun in Libra, it is so much more calm and it's so much more tranquil. The universe is seeking to be tranquil. So, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of rough edges at first, but that's because we're seeking to find that tranquility. So I think Monday will be very, very tranquil. Then we have breakdowns that begin basically Tuesday evening. In fact, the breakdowns may begin as early as Monday night, depending on where you live in the world. That's because we're going to have a step 2 full moon in Aries. Okay, and I'll talk about this more in the tea time. But in essence, you're going to find that something isn't working anymore. Some relationship isn't working anymore. Now, like I said, at the core, it's the relationship to you and yourself. Perhaps you want to achieve something, but you're having a hard time opening up. Perhaps you're feeling a lot of resistance. Perhaps you're feeling resistance from other people. Okay? But there will be some sort of emotional slip on the banana peel where the scales tip, and at least one or both parties will feel that life is extremely out of balance, probably for about a 24 to 36 hour period. All right, now, the universe is trying to unveil the things that need to be changed, the things that you need to open up to, and the things that you don't need to open up to as well. So it's possible that part of the tip of the scales is that you open up to something from another person that you've always opened up to, like they want to come over and read poetry, but then at like 5 a.m. when they won't go to bed, you're like, okay, I can't open up to having this person over, and that could be your temper tantrum. So it doesn't have to be high drama, but what it's representing is you opened up to something you maybe shouldn't have, or maybe you should have opened up to something and you might have missed the bus or missed an opportunity. So what's interesting is Mars and Black Lilith are conjoined in Aquarius all week long. Okay, Mars is going to be, is it step 3? Yeah, Mars is step 3, and it moves. It doesn't make it to step 4, but it's right on the cusp of Black Lilith. So as we are looking at our relationship to ourselves, we're also facing fears around belonging. Okay, where we belong and where we don't belong. That means where we belong with, how we belong responding to things, how we belong responding to ourselves. These are all of our action behaviors. Now, Mars is still in the shadow period, which means your shadow behaviors are still bubbling up. And in this case, your shadow behaviors will basically reveal poor ways that you respond to yourself, or poor ways that you respond to others that leads to them responding to you poorly. Okay, so basically exposing negative behavior around belonging or not belonging. Now you may go, what does belonging, not belonging mean? It means you either belong there or you don't belong there. There's no, I should have done it better, I could have been better at the job. That's what Mars is really helping us segregate. It's not about your abilities, it's that you don't belong there to begin with, that you don't belong in that system. Or you may also be facing fears of abandonment, which is kind of the opposite of belonging, which is, I don't belong anywhere, I won't ever belong anywhere, no one will ever feel like I belong with my tribe. So there's kind of a setup for a big pity party, is what I'm saying. Like, the universe has set us up to really kind of go play our own violin about how hard life has been and how we've been hard to ourselves. And, you know, it all boils down to this. You've been hard to yourself for whatever reason. You've treated yourself that way. You've allowed yourself to be treated that way. There's no need to punish yourself, but there's also no need to blame anyone else. And I think that's really what the whole week really comes down to. With Mars conjuncting Black Lilith, that means if you have any extreme fear about being left behind or being in the wrong tribe or being alone, you will have to face that extreme fear this week. In other words, in your me-rriage to you, you can't allow in your relationship to yourself to fall into tunnels of fear. Whether it's fear of yourself, fear of the world, whatever. It's not acceptable behavior in your me-rriage to let yourself just sit there and cry and worry and feel bad. So if there's fear that comes up, it's not about the fear itself. It's about, in your me-rriage, you let yourself sit in crappy diapers, worried about the future, instead of taking yourself out of that and changing your vibration. Now, the moon basically is full. We have a full moon this week. It's almost at full at Pisces, and then it goes full in Aries, and the apex happens at step 2. So this means that our feelings go to me, 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 right? And everyone is feeling me, me, me. So that's one of the mistakes in a full moon in Aries. Don't expect someone else to fix it. Don't expect someone else to acquiesce or do something. It's about you taking responsibility for you. So we're going to start the day. We're going to start the week feeling all heavenly and cool, and we're cool with everybody. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, me, me, me. Okay, like everyone gets into me, me, me energy. And then at the end of the week, we move into Taurus, which is, okay, this is our policy. Let's manifest this. Let's go to print, as they say in filmmaking. So the moon is intense. Emotions are intense. They're very self-centered. And of course, the moon is crossing Chiron at the moment of the full moon, which means that there'll be some sort of learning event that happens at that apex. Again, I'll talk about that in our tea time. Now, what's interesting is this week will probably be intense. We'll probably lose balance. People will probably say things they don't mean. Even President Trump, he'll probably say stuff he doesn't mean. And you'll probably see a lot of things heating up. But at the end of the week, things seem to go into some great clarity because we have a grand trine in air that happens for 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. And this is between Mars and the moon in Gemini and the sun. So by the end of the week, you really quickly start putting together what needs to happen. So this isn't going to be a transit where we're lost forever about where we should be or where we should not be. However, we will be continuing to explore this theme all the way through November because Venus will be retrograding. Venus is the sign of I receive. And so no matter what we come up with as far as what we're open to or not right now, we're going to reorganize that for a 6-week period beginning October 6th. So basically, I'm saying, don't worry. None of this counts towards your final grade. Do your best. Open up. Learn. Take advantage of this moment. And Libra is such flexible energy. It's such willing energy to renegotiate and bring things to fairness that if there's any time in the year that you could negotiate a win-win deal, it's in Libra. So there's no need to allow yourself to go to any kind of negativity this week. And you'll probably come to some real clear ideas, like I said, by the first weekend of Libra. Now, Mercury moves from 4 to 14 degrees this week, which means our mind will probably in 1 week work from where our me-rriage needs to be all the way to where our relationships need to be. And because Mercury is way out of its retrograde mode and past its shadow, we really are going to be racking up solutions. So if you are wondering if you should be with somebody on Monday, Sensei says you'll know by next Monday. Okay, like there's not going to be any waiting around. The universe is moving forward because I think there's a whole plethora of choices after you leave her or after you leave him. So there's a lot of learning to do here. And of course, Venus herself is in the shadow. What's interesting is this week is the last period of Venus's shadow. Venus will retrograde at step 10. In fact, she comes to her stationary degree this week, which is step 10. What sort of me-rriage should I have with myself? That's what Venus is asking. What kind of relationship to myself should I open up to? And that's a big question because it's, if I should open up treating myself well, then that means I'm not guilty. That means I'm not feeling bad about the past. That means I'm not harboring around old pains. To open up to a new relationship to yourself means you have to close down to a lot of old behavior. This is why Venus is going to retrograde through this space for 6 weeks. Because once you figure out this is the me-rriage I ought to have with myself, there is this 6-week processing of how to make that happen and what to open up to and own up to if you're going to do that. So this week is the last week of learning new things about what's possible as far as what to open up to, the type of relationship to open up to. This is the last week of the universe throwing things in your face. Okay, like you are this in a relationship or you are that. So that's good. And the good news is although this will probably be some sort of tidal wave or some sort of crash of emotion this week, everyone at the end of the week is going to have a very good idea of how they need to be treating themselves going forward. Now, if you are obsessed with relationships, yes, Libra is relationships. But I got to tell you, you're wasting your time if you're trying to figure out if you're supposed to be with someone right now, because what this is really about is how you treat yourself and how you allow yourself to be treated. So you can go and argue it till you're tired and the crows go home, so to speak, with your honey. But if you haven't changed that dynamic relationship to yourself, how you treat yourself, how you respond to yourself, none of those relationship fixes are going to stick. Okay, so please listen to my advice and give this first week just to you and your me-rriage. And when we go into next week, when I come back, we'll be talking about how Venus retrograde is going to be undoing a lot of those old relationship issues. And again, with my Serious Joy subscribers, we'll be getting really deep during that Venus retrograde based on your personal natal data. So that pretty much tells us what's going on in the week. This week, we are tipping the scales. Things are going to be tipped. But the real question is, what exactly tips those scales? And the answer is a full moon. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. This week's tea time topic is a full moon in Libra throws off balance. It looks like we're going to have a doozy of a full moon. You could call it kind of like a hurricane, a little bit of spiritual hurricane. Not to put out fear, but I just want you to know you're not crazy. It's the energy that is shifting. Basically, with the sun in Libra, it's time to rebalance the Earth's powers. And honestly, the game has changed significantly. Many people in the 9 months have faced all their personal issues and begun to rise out of their issue. They're in a better place of power. They're on the path to their personal joy. They're on the story they were meant to live. So as far as balance in the world is concerned, those people deserve a little bit more credit, right? On the other hand, you have a lot of other people who have been faced with their challenges, and time again, they seem to be stuck on the same old rut. They want to stay where they're at or even make it harder. Their credit goes down. So Libra is kind of where we begin to do a do-si-do, and we start to repartner with people on the planet based on what we deserve. Now, in the first 11 days of Libra, the question is, what do I deserve? And what you deserve should be equal to what you give yourself. So in this first 10 days, we're really evaluating what you deserve, what is fair, and are you willing to give it to yourself? Because if you're not willing to treat yourself on that level, you won't law of attract that level. There's lots of ways to fall out of the Game of Thrones, okay? So this full moon is the tipping point. And boy, is it the tipping point looking at the planets. This is a little gnarly, okay? Like, for one, it's a full moon in Aries. Aries is the baby of the zodiac, and it's going to be at step 2 Aries, which is the baby in us. So everyone's baby inside them is going to have a full moon, which means that we are all set up for a temper tantrum. And what's interesting is the full moon conjuncts Chiron at step 0 Aries. So this full moon is in some ways a test for you to respond with the winged ego versus the old grounded ego. So I think this full moon will test everybody to act out in the old way. Everyone will be tested to act out in the old way. And it doesn't really matter about who you throw up on or who you yell at. It's really about the way you treat yourself. If a person yells at you or screams at you, that's how they are yelling and screaming at themselves in the bathtub and in the car and privately at home. So try not to take it personally, but a full moon at step 2 Aries is as personal as it gets. Okay, like we're talking about kind of a volcanic eruption. So everyone is going to be cranky. You'll find you're cranky about the smallest things. Even if you're an evolved person, it'll be like, where are my keys? You know, you just find yourself over-responding. Why is Starbucks line so long? You know, that sort of thing. So we're being tested on the winged ego. Our inner child is out and about. The chance of temper tantrums is probably like 98%. Okay, like somewhere in your day. That's the starters. On the other side, the sun is at step 2, Libra, and Mercury is conjunct at step 5. Now what this means is our feelings and our thoughts are working together. Normally this is a good thing, except of course when you feel the world has treated you wrongly. Then having your feelings and thoughts together means you create kind of a thunderstorm of you feel it, then you think, then that thought makes more feelings, and those feelings make you angry, and that leads to these angry thoughts, which leads to more. So it's basically really like a setup for a wildfire if people aren't very conscious about where they direct their thoughts. That's actually how you get out of a little thought-feeling tornado. Your thoughts. Your thoughts are the one part that can end. Your feelings might linger for a while about certain things, but your thoughts you can change at any moment. So what this full moon comes down to is your own feelings and thoughts arguing on one side with your inner child baby on the other. Okay? So I'm expecting something to completely tip. And I'm expecting something to probably tip somebody off. It'll probably be, because it's I receive Libra, all of us are more open this time of year to receiving than we normally are. So an example of that is, perhaps every day of your life you have mumbled under your breath that you hate your boss. I fucking hate you. Right? Like, let's say, I would say in this first 10 days, oh, your boss hears you. He or she could receive it. All right? So we're going to end up receiving things we don't want to receive. We're going to end up receiving messages that we might normally ignore. We might realize some truths in us, like looking in the mirror, that we have been trying to avoid and not pay attention to all year long. So part of the difficulty of this is facing some ugly truths about ourselves, opening up to accept and receive the truth about certain things, and accept and receive the truth with emotional flair. It's going to be interesting. Mars will be at step 3 Aquarius, so part of the big question of this full moon is, well, where do I belong? Where do I belong treating myself? Where do I belong in a relationship? Where do I belong in the relationship to the U.S. government? Where do I belong in the relationship to my company? Where do I belong in the relationship to this candy bar? Okay, like we're going to be exploring where we belong, and don't be frustrated if you don't know. That's what the transit is about. That's what Mars shadow is about, is that our ego is figuring out where we belong. That means your ego is going to screw up. I'll just tell you right now, you might as well say sorry to your partner right now after you watch the show and just say, hey, I'm sorry. Witeki told me I'm going to end up yelling at you later. I just want you to know I'm sorry. You're like, go ahead and put it out there because your ego really doesn't know. So we have to be compassionate and patient, abundant patience, infinite compassion, to let our ego figure out where to place or how to respond. The best thing to do is to try to refrain from responding until you've gotten your mind around whatever the full moon event is. Now, back to mind, Black Lilith is at step 5 during the full moon, okay? Which means we are facing fears in our head. Fears in our head about where we do or don't belong. So I would say, think twice over this full moon. Your thoughts might be playing up old fears, not reality. Your thoughts might be playing up old drama, not what's actually going on. Be mindful of your thoughts, and be mindful of your thoughts not being in alignment with today, right now, the present, because that's where your power is in the present, okay? Now, interestingly enough, there's some other aspects I just want to throw on the fire. Saturn is direct, which means the decisions you make will stick, so you have to be careful. This will count towards your final grade. Jupiter is at step 21 when it starts to get fun, which means you now begin the process with this full moon of defining boundaries for yourself at the master level. The master level is you got to take care of you got to take care of yourself, you got to make sure your car doesn't run over anyone else, you got to make sure that you end up in the right place. So we're now starting to master our boundaries and where boundaries need to go. And I wouldn't be surprised, since we're in the master boundary position, that someone could be axed out of a situation very quickly now. When Jupiter first went into Scorpio in last October, that's when the Me Too movement started. And everyone's like, oh, you went too far, you went too far, you went too far. That was us all learning all of our boundaries. We've been learning boundaries this entire year. The last person to just recently go down was Me-rriage, who is the most powerful man on television. So I told you it would hit CEOs and politicians in the last. We're about to get the Manafort trial stuff done, right? So it's hitting all those masters. And what it means is, if somebody makes a junior mistake with you, cut them. Okay? If a person doesn't get it by now, I don't know if they're going to get it. Okay? And it's your choice of whether or not you want to volunteer to nurture them while they figure out basic boundary structures. So I think there'll be a lot of disappointments this week because people will realize that they're not ready. And that's what it is. It's like you may realize that an employee is not ready or a partner is not ready. And so you have to say, I'm sorry, I got to move on. I can't treat myself this way, which is to put myself in handicapped situations all the time when I've been designed to run. Right? And what happens is when you're like, sorry, can't handle that problem, now that person is forced to face the truth in themselves. So this full moon could create a chain reaction of people having to look at themselves in the mirror with everyone a bit irritable. My advice, stay off the roads. Okay, seriously, do not drink and drive, do not go on the roads. This is probably one of the most dangerous full moons that I have seen in a long time. Danger in the sense of it's really provoking people at a core issue. It's touching sensitive spots that go back to childhood. And God is pushing us to the final line. Enough is enough. It is time to be treated the way you're worth. And so I think there'll be a lot of intensity. I would not be surprised if some actor out there in the world goes too far during this week. So I would say, especially in the United States, actually in the whole world, check your gut before you go out. Check your gut before you go out in public. Check your gut before you go out there. This would definitely be a week where terrorized action might take place. I broke that up so the CIA database wouldn't pick it up. Then lastly, Venus at step 8 during this full moon pretty much is telling us where we have to define our boundaries. So we're going to be opening up to defining our boundaries. Venus is still in her shadow period, but by the end of the week, you will have everything you need to know about the me-rriage you need to have for yourself. So for this full moon, I want to talk about, for all 12 signs, on the one side, the Sun and Mercury, where your heart and Mercury basically is going to be very emotional, Libra. You're going to be very emotional. You're going to be feeling something very intense inside of you on one side of the equation. On the other side, we have the full moon, we have Chiron, and we have the Earth. The full moon is our emotions. Chiron is us reorganizing things. So one of the things about this full moon is if you have a breakdown, you're going to know immediately what you should have done. That's because the moon is conjuncting Chiron. So it'll be very obvious where you made the wrong turn or where you said so much. So even if you completely crash with this full moon or a relationship completely crashes, it won't lead you into darkness. It will lead you into illumination. You'll know exactly what you're dealing with. You'll know exactly what you're up against. And you'll have all the information you need to make decisions about the future and call the final boundary. So I'm predicting a lot of people screw things up for good, but that's a good thing. Perhaps they weren't meant to be on the team. Perhaps they weren't ready to run the race. And these are hard calls because we love people, we don't want to leave them behind. But I think with Chiron conjuncting the full moon, any behavior is going to be so transparent and undeniable that if it crosses people's personal boundaries, it'll burn a bridge forever, I think, or for this lifetime anyway. So the full moon on Chiron means that we are revamping our emotions about something. We are getting them to a new level. And that might be from crashing and realizing, or it might be from realizing by avoiding crashing. Okay? So you don't have to crash. You can avoid crashing and learn just as much. As we get wiser, we start to do. And because the earth is there, it also means that we are manifesting new at the same time. So this is a very powerful full moon. It's not just going to break things down. It's going to break things down, then break things down as an explanation, then put into motion the healing vibration. So this is kind of like a spiritual car wash. You'll come in, you'll get wrecked, you'll get rebuilt and polished on your way out. And by the time we're at the end of the week, as long as you're not resisting what the universe has shown you, I think you're going to be good. So for each of the 12 signs, I'm going to talk about what you are feeling during the full moon and what you are emotionally revamping with the full moon, Chiron, and Earth. And as always, I will put on the side here what sign I am talking about, so you can zip to your sign or perhaps zip ahead to your ascendant or rising sign or B story for my serious joiners. And as always, we'll start with the infants of the zodiac, Aries. Aries will be feeling mishaps. So you'll probably be feeling mishaps you've made with yourself. Be careful, Aries. You could go down a dark hole of feeling bad about yourself in this full moon. It's not about feeling bad about yourself. It's about what you do to yourself after you feel bad about yourself. It's about how you treat yourself when you feel bad. It's not about the fact that you actually feel bad. Okay? So Aries are going to be feeling mishaps in their life, mistakes that they have made with themselves, and it might be very private. The full moon will call to them to emotionally revamp their ego's motives. So why does your ego respond? What is your ego trying to get out of that response? Okay? This is, of course, tied with the way you respond to yourself. So Aries have a high chance of meltdown on the full moon. If you're in a relationship with an Aries, take a couple feet back. Okay, I think they're going to be, this is the most emotional an Aries typically, theoretically can get in the entire year, and they are the warriors, not just the babies of the zodiac. So feeling mishaps, emotionally revamping their ego and their motives. Taurus. Tauruses will be feeling their body's toll. That's the best way to put this. So you're going to feel, Tauruses tend to just do the work, plow the fields. They don't pay attention to the toll it has on their body. So you're going to start to feel the toll of your life. Okay? Now, you're not meant to fall into that toll, but rather to emotionally revamp your faith. So Tauruses are revamping their emotional faith because they are feeling the toll of their daily work life. And what Tauruses will be doing over this next time in Libra is rebalancing their daily life. Going back to Aries for a second, what Aries will be doing for this month in Libra is rebalancing their relationship to themselves. So Tauruses are rebalancing the relationship to themselves to their life by feeling their body's toll and emotionally revamping their faith. Gemini. Gemini is going to be feeling their heart's longing. So if Geminis are single or alone, they might feel super sad. They may feel a longing for a little partnership. They may feel a longing for a happier time in their life. So they're getting called into their heart's kind of sorrow. They must emotionally revamp where they feel they belong in the world. So you need to create that place in the world where your heart can be happy. And that's what you're revamping, where you feel you belong to make the heart happy. So Geminis, kind of like Aries, they're up for a bigger breakdown than usual in this particular. So will be Gemini risings as well, because it's hitting them straight in the heart. Cancers. Cancers will be feeling the past. What else is new? I'm just kidding, Mom. But the truth is, Cancers do tend to dwell in the past, and this will be a doozy. It's a full moon, so Cancers might get very emotional, longing for the past, perhaps mourning someone that they haven't mourned. So Cancers are likely to be, it's a high tide. This will be a difficult one for your Cancers, okay? Because it's right in a sensitive spot. Now, where Cancers need to emotionally revamp is what they put their feelings into in the future. So in order to get out of the quicksand of emotions of the past, you must emotionally revamp your future plans. And over the course of this month, Cancers will be rebalancing their emotional life by revamping their career legacy plans. Leos. Leos will be feeling their negative thoughts and self-criticism. And believe it or not, Leos really can go on the mopey side. There is a dark side of the sun. In fact, it's called dark spots. If you know, the sun has dark spots. To me, the dark spots are everywhere where the Leo is putting themselves down and hurting themselves in their mind. And Leos have this huge fear of not being liked. And how do they handle it? They treat themselves like crap and not like themselves when they're not liked. Makes no sense, right? So the universe is going to expose your negative thinking, Leo, and where your negative thinking leads to negative feelings. Now, to get out of it, you must emotionally revamp your belief in yourself. You must feel that belief for yourself and let your feelings for your belief in yourself carry you out of the negative thinking. Okay, so Leos are feeling their self-criticism and revamping their self-belief. Now, over the course of the month, you will rebalance your thoughts to be hopefully pro-positive. And through the month, you will have stronger and stronger belief in yourself as you change your thinking. Virgos. Virgos are feeling their debts, okay? That could be financial debt. That could be self-esteem, where they don't have confidence. They're missing confidence. That's a self-esteem debt. They're going to be feeling all of their debt. They're going to be feeling all of their self-esteem issues. They're going to be feeling all of their judgments against themselves, okay? That's heavy. That's a lot, they're very heavy, and Virgos can make it very heavy. You must emotionally revamp your boundaries and trusting yourself, okay? Revamping your boundaries in the sense of, hey, maybe it's not appropriate for you to go there because it makes you feel like crap. Hey, maybe you don't need to look at the Visa bill for the 5th time because you don't have the money, so why are you beating yourself up? So you have to emotionally revamp where your emotional boundaries are. That's where the lesson is in order to keep your heart feeling valuable moment to moment. This month, Virgos will restore balance to their finances and their self-esteem, and they will manifest solid trust that they can use for a year. Libras. Libras are feeling their defensiveness, okay? This is going to hit them big time. Libras and Aries, both will be the most tipped of the scales. Libras are going to find that they are very defensive, okay? And usually Libras are sort of passive-aggressive, but you get them in a corner, boy, they're like a cat. They could hurt you, okay? Like so don't do that. But they're going to be feeling their defensiveness, and they're going to be feeling their defensiveness in particular relationships. So if Libra's relationships have been hanging on a hangnail, this might be the push that ends it this week, just so you know. So you're feeling your defensiveness. How do you get out of that? You must revamp the way you emotionally respond to yourself. The reason why you are feeling so defensive is because you're not feeling your own support from yourself. You're feeling not supported. And you think it's that you're not being supported by your partner, but it's actually double. You're not being supported by your partner, and you're not being supported by yourself because yourself is so worried about supporting your partner and not yourself. Okay? So if Libras have been in a codependent mess, I think this full moon will be the tipping point, okay? And truth will come out. So Libras are feeling their defensiveness and revamping their me-rriage. Scorpios. Scorpios will be a little dangerous on this transit too. Okay, like these are all dangerous kitties. Scorpios are going to be feeling their fears. That's why. Now, the truth is Scorpios are very, very in control of their life, actually. They don't do anything really by mistake unless they're pretty young. But they'll be feeling their fears, and that's because they're searching for faith this month. So this will be a difficult month for Scorpios. By the way, Scorpios, you are clearing your karma out this month. Remember, all of us this year have cleared karma. This will be a particular doozy, okay? So if you have any kind of issues like daddy issues, mommy issues, loss, insecurity, you're going to face them, and you're going to flush them. This full moon might be the trigger that calls you to face and flush them. You will be growing in solid faith this month, though, so don't worry. Now, the way to get out of feeling all your fears is to emotionally revamp your health. So in other words, how do you emotionally focus on being healthy? You emotionally focus on being healthy, for one, by not letting fears overcome you. So you're going to re-architect how you feel in the moment in order to face your fears and build your faith. And over the course of the month, Scorpios will restore balance to their faith, and they will manifest a new lifestyle that exemplifies that faith. Sagittarius. Sagittarius are feeling they're outcast. And you might go, what's that mean? Sagittarius are feeling like they're not popular. They're feeling like they don't belong. They're feeling like people don't like them. All of their social anxieties, they'll be feeling all of their social anxieties. So Sagittarius will feel all their social anxieties in this full moon. They must revamp the way they love themselves. So the way through that is to love yourself, to emotionally love yourself in a different way, to emotionally be constructive of your heart, to be your best friend in public when you don't have a best friend. All right? So you will be very emotional about your place in the world. That could also be status or your success so far, or your title or your class. It could be any of those things that are material as well. But it comes down to revamping and reorganizing how you love yourself in the moment. Capricorns. Capricorns will be feeling all of their mistakes. That's right. All the mistakes, particularly career mistakes, legacy mistakes, parenting mistakes. Any mistakes that counts on your final record, Capricorns will be freaking out about those mistakes. Okay? Now, the honest to God truth is, Capricorn, you're a very hard judge on yourself, and if you're going to be feeling that bad, you should see right now just how hard you are on yourself. Right? Like, that's the whole point. It's not that you made mistakes. It's that you were hard on yourself afterwards. Okay? So Capricorns are feeling all their mistakes, but they must emotionally revamp the way they nurture themselves. It's not that you made a mistake. It's that it's the way you respond to a mistake. Is it okay, or do you get out the ruler? So this week, you will be restoring balance to your career and your legacy. You will be, let's say, fixing all your mistakes. But you'll also be building a new emotional confidence in yourself that no longer beats you up when you do make a mistake. Aquarius. Aquarius will be feeling all of their doubts. Okay? All of their doubts. So Aquariuses they go back and forth about believing in themselves. Basically, that's how Aquariuses are. Like, one day they do, one day they don't. They never necessarily have to ever call it. They have Libra consciousness that literally rules their belief structure. So they literally, any of their doubts will start to pile up on them in an emotional way. So I've been worried about this. You could also say they're worries, because most worries are symptoms of a doubt. Okay? So you are going to emotionally be feeling all of your doubts, all the different things that you doubt could happen in life. The response is you have to emotionally revamp the way you think. Okay? It's not productive to add up all the things you doubt. It's productive to add up all the things you know. Okay? So you're going to find that the way out of your self-doubting vortex is to be conscious of your emotional, intellectual responses to that doubt. How do you respond to the doubt? Do you respond by giving in? Do you respond by giving more information to doubt yourself and more reasons? Or do you respond by telling yourself, we've gotten through it before, we'll get through it again? So Aquariuses are feeling their doubts and emotionally revamping their intellectual attitude. Sorry, lost that for a second. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces are feeling all of their mistrust. Okay? And this might be a lot for a Pisces. So perhaps they don't trust themselves, in a bar full of free wine coolers. Perhaps they don't trust themselves, alone with their married neighbor. Whatever they don't trust. Maybe they don't trust that they can make it to the finish line. Maybe you don't. Who knows? It's whatever it is. But all of your feelings of mistrust come up, okay, where you don't trust. And the way to do this is to emotionally revamp your self-esteem. You have to emotionally say to yourself, hey, I'm worth this. I can make this happen. I can build myself up. I don't have to mistrust everything. So the solution to your mistrust issues is to revamp your emotional confidence by investing in what you do value and what you do trust and what you do hold sacred will help you eliminate your trust. Incidentally, Pisces will be restoring balance to their trust and intimate relationships this month, and they will be manifesting a new soul capital where they feel more valuable in the next 30 days. So This full moon, it's a doozy. But the good news is the sun in Libra is an energy that's designed to bring you back to balance. So trust me, if you fall off balance, you will be brought back onto balance. You just got to be patient and gentle along the way. Now, with that said, I think it's time for some gratitude. And now for some gratitude. My first set of gratitude goes out to everyone in Portland, Oregon who showed up for our weekend event. Thank you so much. Now, honestly, I'm recording this ahead of time, so I'll have more gratitude in the future, but I already know who I am. I'm grateful, so grateful for the opportunity. Look forward to visiting other magical places throughout the year. I also am grateful to announce that Julie Day and I will be co-teaching a course in late November. I can't give you the title of the course, but I will tell you it will be deeply astrological and spiritual coaching combined in one, designed to help you with the Game of Thrones. I just want to plant that seed. So if you want to do a class with Julie and myself, it'll be 5 consecutive weekends, I think on Sundays, and it will be very, very informative. It's designed to help you prepare for the Game of Thrones. More details next week. Also, my personal Sensei service this week. The Megascope monthly reports for October will be live. And I'll be talking about what it means for all 12 signs in this very powerful Venus retrograde that lasts 6 weeks beginning October 6th. So be sure to watch your Megascope monthly reports. Just one of the many features I give all of my subscribers. You get a 15-minute audio basically on your sun sign and your rising. Plus, I give usually a 30 to 45-minute address on what the month is about. So those go live on October 1st. They are free and part of your service. And I also have special Venus retrograde information coming out in October. Never been a better time to sign up. If you want more information, it's just $3.99 for the first month. Visit SeriousJoy.com. And lastly, of course, our little place on the web. We call it the Namaste Today Club. So if you want to stay in touch with me, my events, my trips, and also just my crazy sense of humor, come be a part of our club at namastetoday.club. All right, friends, I hope your scales don't be tipped too much, but don't worry. I think this is probably the last megastorm, spiritual megastorm of the season. From this point forward, we learn and we adapt. So hang in there. Remember, I love you, and to live, love, be.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.